Here is the second part of the interview. Right now I will be an examiner and Sophia will be an student. So, do you work or are you a student?
Well, in my case, principally I study in the university. I study modern languages, but I have a part-time job that is a translator and as a writer, um, freelancer, especially, I am focused in the English translations and in translating documents, especially book for kids, and also to translate some subtitles for the movies. For example, Netflix movies, I do it. So, but the most of the time I pass it in the university studying, because it's really when you are a freelancer worker, it depends on the client and all the offers that they make for you. So I dedicate more time to my study than my job.
Yeah, you stay so busy. And what's difficult about your job?
Well, I think that's probably trying to be like so specific to try to translate what the editor is trying to transmit to the public that will read, for example, the books. And for example, as I told you before, in the case of the book for kids, you have
Yeah,
to be so simple in your language for try to transmit the idea that is for them to there are kids that are just starting knowing about topics that are well things that at this age are so easy for you, but for kids it's really not. So I think that's a difficult part from translation.
yeah, so to keep the same idea. Yes.
Yeah.
So you would you recommend your job to someone else?
Yeah, sure. Also, I think it really needs to be you really need to dedicate to it. You really have to study so much, also be so minutious in the words. And also, I think in the case of translation, you have to try to transmit the language that the editor is trying to make you understand in another way. But I will really recommend it because I love my job also. I think translation is a really interesting job because it's like a way to connect to words that have different cultures, and it's a way to transmit that kind of cultures to other countries. So it's so interesting, and I will really recommend it to others.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much. Uh, so right now we are going to start the second part of the interview. I will give you um, a specific task and you have 1 minute to prepare. Sure.
Okay.
So you will describe a magazine that you read, please, and you will tell me you can tell me about why it is interest for you, what it is popular for the people, and
Okay.
explain what it is important to read them.
Why it is important to what? Sorry.
To read this magazine.
Okay, could you please repeat me the first part, please?
Sure, you have to describe a magazine that you read and you will explain about why it is important to read them.
Okay, I will take a minute. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Are you ready? Okay, let's start.
Okay, so I would like to talk about the Nat Geo magazine. It's a magazine that I really love it because since I was a child, I really love science. Also, I love those topics about animals, plants, and all about science. And well, you know about. Also, I think that it's so important in this case to make it popular. And also, I think it's popular, but not in all of the people. I think it's only in one group of people, that it's the ones that will that like that kind of subjects. But equally, I think it's really important to make it known to the other people because it makes you like take conscience about the situation that we're living now in the world, about contamination, about the extinction of many animals. Also, I think in the case of the cultures in those magazines, you could know some facts about, for example, other countries and also continents like Asia, Europe. And it's like kind of travel without well doing it now because well you know about all of this of the pandemic, it's difficult. But if you try to take knowledge, that kind of knowledge about it to yourself, you will feel better, like trying to know other kind of cultures and also feel like near to them without traveling there. And also, I think it's important too to read this magazine because you could make to the little ones, for example, in the case of the kids, that is the future generation, that they will know the impact that will have in the future our actions, especially well, save water, recycle, and also, well, in the case of the cars, the pollution, well, to be more like ecologic with the bicycle and all of that. So I think it's so important about it, and it's interesting for me because well, all my life I've been surrounded by science.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting. Those kind of magazines, and I just want to ask you some information about those things. So, what do you think about the difference between to read a newspaper and the magazine? I
Hmm. Well, that's an interesting question. I think that magazines usually are more like kind of extra with information. So
Yeah.
that, for example, you read it in a newspaper and they say, well, a person died in a street by a, well, shocked by a car. But you read it in a magazine and it was like, well, the car was going like at 100 kilometers and then the man was doing things that he uh, didn't have to be doing it. He was at the wrong time, at the wrong place, and what they make other facts that they are really not true. So
A lot of
I
different information. I think, of course, that maybe newspaper is more centralized and magazine is more public and approach a different kind of information that people would like to know too.
exactly,
Um,
yeah.
and just and for finishing, what do you think about the internet? Internet is an advantage or a disadvantage taking into account about magazine and newspapers information.
Okay, well, I think internet it's like 50-50 because if you think you only know like one part, like the point of the iceberg, in those cases of the information because well if you know how to manage those kinds of information, for example in the case of the news, they are really not well. There are exceptions, obviously, but there are also some newspapers that are the same as magazines that also change the information only to attract people or more readers. And I think, well, the most important thing here is that you have to be so determined to what you really want to read. So, for example, you already know, well, when you have read before, when you have read, sorry, before other kind of newspapers, you have like an idea of, for example, ones are more near to the truth and others that really so far from the truth. So I think it's a case of teach you to know, learn how to use the internet, and to all search for the most clearest information, for not being like so extra and also make a scandal.
Yeah, sure. I'm completely agreed with you. And so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for you. Bye.